Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Well, I guess it is really true. What goes around comes around.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the Worry-Free Retirement, with your host, retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
As a retirement planning specialist with now more than 40 years in the field of finance, one of the most interesting phenomena I am witnessing today is something called the boomerang effect. The boomerang effect I'm referring to is that notion of what goes around comes around. In other words, it's that point in life where you think something is gone out of your life, but then, much to your surprise and usually out of the blue, it shows back up. And while the financial world tends to focus on the modern-day boomerang effect of adult kids moving back in with their parents, I will not only focus on this issue, but several other financial boomerangs that will eventually come back into the picture, and yes, usually in the phase of life we call retirement. So, what are these financial boomerangs one might expect in retirement, and what are we at Tony Walker Financial doing to help our clients better prepare for them? Well, I'm glad you asked, as we've titled today's show, What Goes Around Comes Around. Welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement, and yes, I'm that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and full-time fiduciary, Tony Walker, and before we share with you how to better prepare for what might be unexpectedly coming your way in retirement, let me introduce two young lads in the Worry-Free production studios who are always coming back each week to help produce this show, America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, along with Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, let's set the stage and describe what a boomerang is and its purpose. The purpose of throwing a boomerang is for you to intentionally toss it in the air so that it returns to you in the same location, right? Now, the key word is being intentional. I mean, who wants to throw a boomerang off course only to run and go fetch it? But not so in the world of finances and retirement. In retirement, we hope that the things we have done in terms of planning do not come back, like raising our kids to be self-sufficient, or watching our parents enjoy the remaining years of their lives in their own homes, and yes, even enjoying all that money in your 401k that you've stockpiled away, hoping to save on taxes. But in the real world, these worries that you thought were tossed aside sometimes return at a time when you least expect it. Kids moving back home, parents moving in with adult children, and yes, taxes showing up on your doorstep when you go to take money out of that tax-infested 401k plan. So, how can we at Tony Walker Financial help savers deal with the many financial boomerangs that will show up on your doorstep in retirement? Well, when we return, I'm going to share with you exactly how we as a retirement planning firm are able to help so many savers deal with the boomerang effect as we remind you that what goes around comes around. I'm Tony Walker, this is the Worry-Free Retirement, and we will be right back. Wondering how much money you'll need to retire? Probably a lot less than you think. I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and for over 40 years I've helped thousands of savers determine when to retire and how much money they'll need in retirement, and I can help you too. To see if you can retire now, take advantage of our free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with me, Tony Walker, by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Tony Walker, and as we talk about this whole boomerang effect, it can definitely have an effect on one's retirement, as many of these articles are starting to relate to. So I would be remiss if I didn't go back in time. In fact, let's go back to 1932. At that time, my granddad was 18 years of age. Now, 1932, in the middle of the Depression, when you turned 18, I know jobs weren't plentiful, but you were expected to get off your duff, get out of the house, and go find work, which Luckily, my granddad did, climbing telephone poles with Bell South. But what's happening today? It's a totally different economy, a totally different feel for things. In fact, many articles are talking about how adult children are being forced to not only leave their apartments or whatever, but many are moving back in with their parents. In fact, as we were preparing for this show, our own Derek Hudson had a couple of examples of this. So, Derek, you want to explain with a couple of your buddies this past weekend what you went through?
Yeah, so two of my friends this past weekend are both moving back in with their parents. Had to help them each move Saturday and Sunday.
And do you mind me asking, what were their circumstances for each of those kids?
Well, I mean, one of them was running a business that she decided to close. So just kind of in preparation for that, she had to move back in temporarily. And the other one just, his income wasn't keeping up with his rent, so he's going to step back and figure things out from there.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, Derek. Here's the point, folks. If you're watching this and maybe you're concerned about adult children, just remember, if you're at my stage in life, in my age range, it's a tough world out there. So this is why at Tony Walker Financial, we're always willing to help you think through ways that you might be able to help your kids without negatively impacting your retirement, and we're really good at it. So what I thought I would do in the remaining time of this particular segment, our own Trey Jurgens kind of looked up some things that are going on, again, that back in Granddad's day, nobody was really concerned about. In fact, I think about this with even parents moving in with adult children. Back in my mom's day, I remember she said, "Oh gosh, Tony, that was commonplace." I can remember my grandmother moved in with us when I was a teenager, and she eventually just died in our household. That's kind of what you did back then. Didn't have all these nursing homes and everything. So I realized totally different environment today. Let's look at some of the boomerang effects going on. Here's one. This is called Prevalence of Caregiving. Now, this was a study done by Duke School of Nursing, and basically here's what it says. Approximately 17% of U.S. adults provide care for someone over age 50, and in many cases, folks, this is their parents. Huge issue going on. Here's a second thing going on. It would be the time commitment. Guardian Life Senior Living Magazine, the average caregiver, listen to this, spends 26 hours per week providing care, and that's up from 9 hours back in 2020. So we're seeing more and more people having to provide care for family members. Huge issue. Number 3, of course, we refer to it, it's called the sandwich generation. Those are those people that are sandwiched in between their children and their parents. It says around 24% of adult child caregivers also have to care for a minor child, representing 2.5 million people. So again, think about some of your adult children. If you're watching this, if you're my age or older, not only they might be having to take care of you, some of them are still having to take care of their kids through college or whatever. So be empathetic to their plight as well. Here's another one, the basic economic impact. Unpaid, this is according to Duke University School of Nursing again, unpaid caregiving labor was valued at $600 billion in 2021. It goes on to say caregivers often have to sacrifice their own careers and income. I see this a lot. People will come in and they've decided to retire early. The reason they're retiring early is they're worried about mom and dad and they want to be available to them. Very noble and very honorable. And it's a privilege for us to come in and try to help those people figure out if they can retire early so that they can be of help to their family. Next, the financial strain. This is interesting. Nearly half, 47%, of the sandwich generation adults reported being unable to meet essential expenses due to caregiving costs. So it's affecting them financially as they're trying to take care of their parents. Living arrangements. We're going to share an example of this in the Bible. This is a wonderful idea to think about. I just mentioned this with my mother and her grandmother years ago, but co-resident between adult children and aging parents is more likely when either party has low income or assets. So again, you might have a parent or you might have to be bringing in your adult children because, as Derek just talked about, they just don't have the assets or income. So it goes both ways. Could be aging parents that don't have money or adult children who don't have money and need assistance. Demographics. In 2022, adult children accounted for 40% of family caregivers for older adults, a decline from previous years. This is according to PRB. I'd have to look at that more further. And then finally, gender disparities. Now, this may not come as a surprise. Women comprise 59% of the family caregivers, often balancing caregiving with employment and other responsibilities. So it looks like the majority of people taking care of one another, it tends to be more female than male. So you might be sitting there saying, Tony, this is all well and good, but I'm not sure what this has to do with my retirement. Well, as we've talked about, what goes around comes around. And in retirement planning, if you do not have a retirement planner that understands that change will come. A gentleman came in yesterday and he asked me, he said, I'm thinking about working with you, Tony, but I really got to ask you, what's really the difference between you and everybody else after my money? And I said, the difference is we understand retirement planning better than most folks. I've been doing retirement planning for over 25 years. We have over 3,500 customers. Most of those customers are retired. I have 19 full-time employees. All we do is retirement planning. And I can assure you, we're going to be there not just when you retire. Anybody can take your money and say they're going to help you. We're going to be there for the long haul. This is our expertise, and this is our playing field in retirement. So that's you. If you're maybe looking for somebody you can trust, somebody to see you through retirement, not just take your money and run off with it and make a bunch of money on it, we need to talk. My name's Tony Walker. I'm the owner of Tony Walker Financial. And to make that happen, set up your free fiduciary phone call. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started, and we will make that happen to see if we can help you. TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call us at 877-499-9255. Well, there's another what goes around comes around, and it is actually those taxes buried inside your 401k plan, especially if you're trying to get some money out of that 401k prior to 59 and a half. When I come back, I'm going to share with you a unique concept the government has allowed us to partake in, something some of our clients have taken advantage of, a way to save on taxes and allow you to retire prior to age 60. I'm Tony Walker. This is The Worry-Free Retirement. We'll be right back. Don't let the fear of running out of money in retirement keep you up at night. Turn your 401k into mailbox money for life by logging on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call 877-499-9255.
The individuals in this interview are uncompensated clients at the time of filming. Their opinions expressed were provided to Worry-Free Productions for use as an advertisement by Tony Walker Financial. Please refer to Form CRS and Form ADV Part 2B Disclosure Brochure for information regarding the advisory services offered by Tony Walker Financial.
You were under the impression, like a lot of workers, that just because you were under the age of 60 and wanted to retire, that really that 401k, to your understanding, was kind of off limits. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it's kind of ingrained into your head. If you hit it before 59 and a half, you're going to get a 10% penalty from the feds. It was eye-opening when I came here and learned that, I can avoid that penalty.
One of the biggest misconceptions in the world of retirement planning is this. If you are under the age of 59 and a half, you cannot retire because you cannot get access to your 401k or IRA plan. Nothing could be further from the truth. Now, it is true. If you try to take money out of a 401k or tax-deductible IRA or any pre-tax account for that matter, prior to 59 and a half, there are times when there will be a 10% excise tax penalty is what I like to refer to it, which again, no one wants to pay an extra 10% in taxes if you don't have to. So how do we avoid that 10% tax penalty for those of you who do want to retire early? And folks, this comes up all the time. And what I'm about to show you, we have done these numerous times. So we understand this strategy I'm getting ready to share with you, which is actually compliments of the United States government. And it does work. Let's first of all imagine that someone has, and this we call this pre-59 and a half planning, age 59 and a half. Let's imagine that a person has $800,000 in their 401k plan and they want to retire for various reasons. We're talking about the boomerang effect now, and we're talking about people maybe wanting to take care of their grandkids who they're having to take care of, or take care of mom and dad. Or a gentleman the other day just said, I am so burned out on work, Tony. I can't take it anymore, man. I got to get out of there. And that might be you. Maybe you've been offered a buyout. Whatever the case, we can analyze this accurately. Folks, I've got 19 full-time employees, have 2 tax-certified people on staff. We know this world very well. We understand what we're doing. So anyway, let's say this person has $800,000 and for whatever reason they want out of work, but they've heard about this thing called a 10% excise tax penalty. Now, first of all, one thing they could do, this is the key. If they terminate service at the age of 55 or older, and if they so choose, they can leave the money in the 401k with their current custodian. In other words, don't roll it out to an IRA. Again, you have to be 55 or older when you terminate service, but you could draw out money anytime you want out of that 401k without a tax penalty. But you might be sitting there saying, well, Tony, I want to go over with you guys. I know you got products the 401k doesn't have. I want your expertise in planning. I want it local. I'm tired of dealing with these 1-800 numbers. I want to move that 401k over to you. I know there's no taxes to move it over. I know you're going to put it in an IRA. But what happens if I draw money out of there during this phase between 55 and 59 and a half? Well, if we just take money out of an IRA, there is going to be that 10% excise tax penalty, but there's a way to avoid it. It's called a 72T election. Now, again, this is in the government's code. The IRS code is perfectly legit, perfectly legal. You got to know what you're doing on this. But here's how this would work. So somebody comes to me, and we've had clients do this. I know the interview leading up to this particular segment, this is what the client did. We would take that 401k, roll it over to our custodians at Tony Walker Financial. We would put it in that beautiful split IRA concept that we're known for, and we would carve out a portion of that money to go into what's called this 72T, all right? Now, the government tables will tell us how much we can take out, and if we follow those government tables, we will not have to pay that extra 10% tax. So let's say we've gone through a retirement plan with this particular individual, and now I'm just pulling names out of the air here. Obviously, they can't take Social Security because they're only 55. Maybe they do have a small amount of a pension starting. Let's say that's $20,000 a year. Okay. Maybe they're even going to work part-time, do something on the side that they enjoy doing. But then they say, well, Tony, I need more income than that. My part-time wages and my pension aren't going to cut it. Well, maybe the 72T, based on the calculation, pays another $20,000. And what we do is we carve out an amount of money designated to pay that 72T. What you have to watch and what you have to be careful of, and we even have to watch the companies, because sometimes they don't code this properly for the IRS. It has to be what's called systematic distributions for at least 5 years or age 59 and a half, whichever is longer. So again, let me back up again. You move it over to us. You want us to handle it. You want the 72T. It is not going to be quite as flexible if you left it at the 401k. It'll still work. It works great, but you just have to remember there's some give and take on this. So in this example, let's say that was the calculation. You would get $20,000 from your pension and $20,000 from the 72T. Obviously, it's going to draw down some of your IRA because we have to make those payments once we start them. There's no additional excise tax. Whatever the taxes are, they'll be. We'll calculate that for you. Then after age 60, the balance of that IRA, whatever we've done in terms of our split IRA, is fully accessible. So this is the kind of planning that gives you flexibility. It could put you in more control, and yes, allows you to do some things that you thought you couldn't do. So that's you right now. If you're sitting there saying, Tony, I didn't realize I could do a lot of these things you keep talking about on this show. Why don't we at least talk? It doesn't matter your age. If you're basically over the age of 50, that's kind of our demographic, all the way up to 85, it doesn't matter. But if you're retired or you're approaching retirement, we need to talk. To learn more about Tony Walker Financial, why don't we do this? Let's start off with a phone call. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call anytime at 877-499-9255. We'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement, and we are covering this topic of what we call the free steak mistake. And if you're just now joining us, if you're between the ages, I'm going to guesstimate of 55 and 65, assuming you can still fog a mirror and have a mailbox at home, you are probably getting bombarded with these free steak dinner advertisements. And I mean, in the studio with me is my favorite son-in-law and fiduciary, Trey Juergens, and on Zoom is our fiduciary out of the Bowling Green office, Heather Hughes. So Trey, somehow you've gotten on the radar. This is kind of funny because you're not in that age range. How many of these free dinner seminar invitations would you say you're getting on a weekly basis? Don't exaggerate.
Easily 3 to 4 a week.
Per week.
Yeah, my legal name is Carl, so they probably think I'm 70 years old. But yeah, I'm somehow on the sweet spot for getting these. It's pretty funny. It keeps our mail carriers busy, which is good.
And then Heather, I know you and Andy are kind of in that age range. Are you starting to see these show up in your mailbox?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I keep telling Andy he needs to go and check them out. Get the free steak.
My mother lives in Lexington. She gets them all the time. I said, Mom, gosh, go get you a free steak dinner. And she goes, oh, I'm afraid I'll say the wrong thing. And I say, you don't have to say anything. Just eat their steak and say thank you and head out the door. But now we are concerned about this a little bit. Last week we talked about the art of communication. And I will say this, and this is probably a compliment to a lot of the people putting these on, but the problem in our industry, and Trey, you and I talked about this before we went on, theoretically, especially for annuity peddlers, all you need to host these is a 6-week course and you get your life and health license, insurance license, right? You get out about, $10,000 probably to go pay for a bunch of mailers. You reserve a spot at these nice restaurants, so that's probably another $10,000. So as long as you've got $20,000 somewhere, you can host these. And let's kind of do some math just so people understand why somebody would invest $20,000 to buy you a free steak. Go through some numbers roughly of what an advisor could make off of one of these.
Well, say you have an event and you have 20 couples show up. And of those 20 couples, you get, let's just say 7 that decide to meet with you. And if you sell $2 million in premium for annuity products, and they pay you roughly 6% commissions on those products, which isn't unheard of. That's $120,000 they could make off that one event. So they're clearing $100,000 before taxes for one night of work and some appointments to follow up.
And they're really, by law, especially if they're not fiduciaries. Even fiduciaries, I'm noticing they don't really follow up much, but they don't have to do anything after that, do they? It could be a one and done sale.
Yeah, the real winners, obviously the annuity peddlers, the agents that aren't fiduciaries, they're legally obligated and contracted to sell those products, but they have really no fiduciary responsibility at all to service after the sale. So when you call them after the dinner seminar and the contract's delivered, you can't really expect them to do much for you.
And then of course the restaurants, bless their hearts. This is a bonanza for them. I guess they just take orders and
loving it.
Yeah, they're loving it. So Heather, what are your thoughts? Because years ago we did dinner seminars. I'm not necessarily poo-pooing them, but we've gotten away from those. But what are your whole thoughts on these dinner seminars, this huge resurgence? And it's more than I've ever seen. We've been collecting them with just our staff because a lot of our staff is in an age range. We actually got more than we can even keep. At some point I said, we just need to toss these things. But what are your thoughts on the whole dinner seminar resurgence?
Well, they all disappeared during the pandemic. Obviously that wasn't going to happen for anybody. And, since everything's opened up again, like you said, if you got an insurance license and, some little seed money, you can really, have a great return on investment. But I'd like to kind of talk to what Trey had mentioned. They really have no legal obligation to help you after the sale. Unless they're a fiduciary, but even then they don't do that. We've had some clients that have moved over to us from other advisors, and it's funny, they hadn't heard or anything from the advisor after the annuity sale, but then all of a sudden they're contacting him because those annuities are out of surrender. So it's like, that's very convenient. It's when you can start making some more money from these clients that they contact them again. We're so different in that we do look at allocations everywhere, every year on our indexed annuities, check in with clients, make recommendations on those. We feel an obligation to service those contracts all through the length of the contract. And I don't think that that's a priority for other advisors, mainly because it's expensive. You've got to have staff to be able to furnish that service.
Yeah, I met a couple the other day, and maybe the fellow's a real nice fellow. Up in the Louisville area, we spend a lot of time up here. I think it was Wes that concluded, we did some research, there's 2,000 advisors and insurance agents within 5 miles of our offices. So I don't know a lot of these people, but anyway, they came in, they purchased some annuities and even some investments like we offer through Schwab from this gentleman several years ago. But they got nervous because they realized it hadn't really dawned on them. He's about my age, I'm 65. He has no other advisors in the office. And they're like, hey, Jim, I'll call him Jim. What happens if something happens to you? So speak to that also, Heather, that remind people that when they're going to these dinner seminars and they're being touted as retirement planning workshops or tax savings or whatever, speak to that knowledge of knowing that somebody is going to be around, not just after the sale, but long into the future, and how we've set up Tony Walker Financial to address that.
Right. Well, we were posed the same question long ago. So you made it a priority to have a plan in place for, if something did happen to you. You always laugh about, a fiery crash. But the way we have established our clients' accounts through the income plan, through hiring additional fiduciaries and building out a staff to service those, we have the ability to continue a retirement plan even if you or I are gone. It's still in place. We have the staff to support it. We have other fiduciaries to pick up the reins and carry on.
Yeah, and I'm so proud of what we've done there and appreciate all the staff. And Trey, I know he's kind of come up with this little triangle. Kind of explain this, that we call it the ratio of staff to advisor, Trey, and how that really works.
Well, the unique thing you've done with the staff here is the typical model, when we get these new dinner seminars, we just for fun go and check out their website. It's usually a handful of advisors and maybe 1 or 2 support staff. And it's the marketing folks getting these dinner seminars put together. What you've put together, we have 4 fiduciaries, but we have such a large support staff to service all these contracts.
Yeah, we have 16 support staff.
Right. So if you've got that ratio, you have so many people that can call the phone number, speak to a human, get service right away. It's really flipping the staffing in this industry on its head and providing clients exactly what they're looking for, which is personal service.
That's an excellent way of putting it. And then finally, I wanted to conclude with what we're doing with what is a CRM, briefly, Heather, and why are we spending well into the 6 figures at this stage of my career and your career and everybody, when we could just kind of coast, quite frankly? Why are we putting all of this effort to update our CRM and see and help more and more people?
Well, a CRM is a client relations manager. So it is kind of the hub of where we store all data for our clients, whether it's their information on their Charles Schwab accounts, their annuities, all the personal notes that we've taken during meetings. All of that is stored in one area. And the reason we have upgraded, one, it was, I think, overdue, but we have developed and purchased a new system that should streamline all of our data for us. And what that does, it frees up our staff's time rather than just doing a lot of data input to redirect that time towards personal service with the clients. And so we're super excited about it. We're really hoping it's going to be a game changer within the office on just upping the level of service that we can provide clients right now and in the future.
Yeah, and we appreciate you and Trey, and even TJ's done a wonderful job of bringing that on board. It's been a huge project. And as we said, I think by the end of the year, we're going to look back. We're going to be so glad we did it. And again, folks, the reason we're taking all these painful strides to get to this point is so we can continue to help more and more savers worry less about money. So that's you right now. Maybe you're frustrated right now. Maybe you don't feel like you've got an advisor that really is attentive to your needs or has a business continuation plan in place to see you, not just when you retire and handle all your money and make commissions and all that good stuff, but see you all the way through retirement. Give us an opportunity to talk. Before you rush out and do anything, get a second opinion from us at Tony Walker Financial. Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. We'll arrange a free phone call, and if we think we can be of help, we're going to meet in person, no cost, no obligation, to see if we can help you, and we'll lay out this free proprietary game plan for you. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com, or call us anytime at 877-499-9255. Well, we've enjoyed being with you today. You remember next week on the Worry-Free Retirement, if all else fails between now and then, you be worry-free and you make it a good one.